This morning.
Good morning. Hey, how come I never get to be the guy reporting from spring training? We need to talk about that.
All right, we will talk about that. Yes, you will. All right, good. All right, Tony Mess. That's because you're too busy basking in the glow of your Broncos victory to come down
The
and.
world champion Denver Broncos.
Yes. I apologize.
Right.
Yes, all right, good. You've been on this ethics debate and controversy down in Jefferson City for a long time now, and it seems like a bill was working its way through and has since been gutted.
Yeah, the House this year, early in the session, passed a bunch of ethics bills, some of which are pretty good, some of which are pretty weak. But it's a start, it's something, and they've made their way to the Senate. And the Senate is proceeding to basically crap all over those bills and send them back and not do anything to them. And it's disappointing. It's proving my theory from the last couple of years that the only way that this state is ever going to get any reasonable ethics reform is if somebody puts it on the ballot. I think the voters are going to have to take over. I don't think the legislature is going to police itself.
In your column the other day, this stat was unbelievable. I had to read it 3 times before I really understood it. Explain to me again the number of St. Charles House members or senators who have not finished their term.
Every St. Charles senator, all Republicans, since 2002, has left early for either a government job or a lobbying job. And so Tom Dempsey was the most recent. He took a lobbying job with the Gateway Group, the Rex Singefeld's group. Before that, Scott Roop, who's now on the Public Service Commission, he was appointed by Governor Nixon. Bob Onder is in the current seat. Before Scott Roop, Chuck Gross took a job for working for the county, and before that, John Dolan took a job working for a lobbying organization. So here is this bastion of conservatism, supposed conservatism in St. Charles, and none of the senators from there finish their jobs. They leave early to cash in some capacity. Now, that doesn't mean that they aren't necessarily good lobbyists or good government officials and appropriate for the jobs that they're doing, but it says something to the respect that they have or don't have for voters and for the process of public service.
Yeah, when you say leave early, you don't mean they finished their term and they decided to do something else, but they could have run. In the middle of their terms, they left.
Yes, every one of them quit early. They quit and either created a need for a special election or just left the seat vacant for a period of time. And at least in a couple of situations, most recently being Tom Dempsey's, they left before a veto session in which their vote and their leadership may have made a difference in some of the issues that came before the legislative body. I find that offensive.
So it seems to me, you follow this much more closely than everybody, but it seems like the House is much more open to ethics reform, whether it's a lobbying reform or having a waiting period or lunch and lobbyists paying for lunch and putting some type of money cap on it, as opposed to the Senate, where it seems like all these things go to die.
Definitely this year, and I wouldn't say that in the past because the previous speaker had no interest in lobbying reform. But definitely this year, the House appears more interested in ethics reform than the Senate. And I think that's one of the ways that the two bodies are so completely different is the House very much with a super Republican majority follows the leadership of its speaker. And in this case, Speaker Todd Richardson made ethics reform a priority, so it's going to get done. The Senate is a much more individualistic body, and plenty of its members have already forgotten what their Senate President Pro Tem did last year, have already forgotten what so many lawmakers have done over the last couple of years, and some of them just won't admit it. This is what sort of offends me. Several years ago, this debate was happening when I was still reporting in the Capitol, and there was a senator from Franklin County, John Griesheimer, who's now a county commissioner in Franklin County. And he was being challenged by Jason Crowell, who was trying to push this 2-year revolving door cooling off period, which is the same thing Congress has and 33 other states have, that just says, hey, we don't want you spending your last year of lawmaking looking for a job. You ought to be spending time focusing on the legislation. And Crowell was trying to get it passed, and Griesheimer was blocking it. And Crowell got Griesheimer to stand up and say, you want to be a lobbyist, don't you? And Griesheimer said, well, yes, I do. And that's what is going on. A lot of these lawmakers want to cash in and become lobbyists. And I just love to see them stand up on the floor of the Senate and admit that's why they're blocking the bill.
Tony Messenger, St. Louis Post-Dispatch, STLtoday.com. I think they should pass a law that there should be a 2-year waiting period before you're allowed to hit on staff interns.
Oh, I would say much more than that, much more than that.
Tony, be good. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks.
All right, 724 here, Big 550 KTRS. What's wrong with that?